Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Bonjour, and well, happy New Year. This is broadcasted on the Saturday, December 31st, 2022, and yeah, it's going to be a fresh start for the new year, and this is episode number 3 already of Dissolving the Divide. We have a very special guest who is going to be quite unfamiliar with a lot of people, but he's been doing some marvelous and magical things, and we have a lot in common, all three of us, because we have actually gone through the Blue Flame Healing Arts and Occult Science initiation with Sethikus Boza, and what we're going to be talking about corresponds and correlates with all of this. So I'm really pleased and eager to hear what Rodney has to say. He's got his website, Hardcore Productions, Mr. Blue Pearl Oracle, and yeah, he has some wonderful services in regards to tarot reading and astrological readings of many different sorts. And that's not all, but we'll pass it off to Leslie because she got in contact with him first. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks again to Derek Bartolicelli, our producer here, the person who had this brainstorm of this Dissolving the Divide series. And so we are in our early part of this exploration where we're talking about the inner divide and inviting people to look within themselves to learn about themselves. So self-knowledge is super important as we move forward into the various more controversial topics. And we invited a very special guest, Rodney Goodwin. I had this idea that astrology is a marvelous way to cultivate our self-knowledge, and that through the lens of astrology, we can look at our inner divides and oppositions and find insights about our inner workings, and eventually how that then will impact how we relate to other people and relate to the cosmos. So it's very broad. And so starting today with this focus on the inner self related to astrology, I'm really glad to have Rodney here. I became familiar, Rodney, with your work through actually when you were doing some interviews with Sethikus Boza on Black Earth Productions, and I followed some of your astrological short videos on your Facebook page. So I thought of you for this topic. I think you're going to be great. So let's start a little bit about how, just on a very basic level, about how astrology really is a fantastic way of developing self-knowledge, and how do you approach that, Rodney?
So astrology is an art of gnosis that, for me, was a game changer. And I think everybody, at least needs to have some basic knowledge of astrology to understand their solar templating. It's how your disposition is rolled out. Not only to vibrational correspondence, but how you work with the ethers as well. So, in context to that, what happens is that you have a templating when you come in, and that templating is like magnetic. So we're dealing with magnetics, and electricity here. So the grids and the planets are charged all the time with the solar activations that are going on in context to the solar spiral and what's the energies that are running through the ethers. So you literally have a template that is developed when you take your first breath and come into your incarnation, when you are born and you come into your first breath in context to placing the location where you're at when you are born. And that is magnetized to your DNA structure in your body. And literally, this is the place where you have come in to do the work, to really change your soul's journey, to bring yourself into a higher level of gnosis and activations. Of course, we're in major stellar activations right now in context to where we're at in space and time, to the great year, the grand cycle, and everything that's going on. And that's another subject. But getting into it, this templating and what you came in to do is going to play itself out in context to not only squares, oppositions, trines, sextiles, and conjunctions. These are just kind of like the major aspects that go on in a chart, but they're going to play themselves out to resolve issues that you have going on with your soul's journey in context to what you're carving out in the universe. So this is how we do it. And by knowing your wheel, and your dispositions and your aspects, then you can put your consciousness on certain things in your journey, in your life, because they're going to play out and present themselves to vibrational correspondence as things get set up, not only to your own inner world, but then as without to your relationships, and then how you're wielding your thought and emotion, which would be your moon energy, your GPS aspect, to relationships and to your everyday life. And so once you understand and you see the setups and you have awareness and understanding of what's going on, then you can bring those things into balance and start to learn how to resolve them like a square, and so we'll get into what they are, but that's basically the premise of astropsychology, because it works upon as within, as without, as above, so below.
Great. Yes. So you can study your wheel to then see the correspondences in your outer life, right?
Right, exactly. Because you can look at the wheel, and then, if you don't know anything about astrology, you can hit an astrologist up, and then you can get into your aspects, and then you can take the study as deep as you want it, because look, you're not going to learn astrology in one lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too big, too broad of a study. I mean, it's layers and layers and layers.
Mm-hmm.
You get to one thing and you go, oh, wow, I didn't see that. And you get to that and, oh, wow, it's just like opening up doors.
Yes.
It's like there's 84,000 doors in front of you. It's just like, which one do you open? Well, you open one of them, then that leads to another 10 doors, and that, you know what I'm saying? And so,
yeah, where do you recommend people begin on this journey of self-discovery?
Well, I began by just asking the questions. If you don't start asking why, then you're never gonna, you're just not gonna discover.
Yeah.
And so asking why, that's the biggest thing. And so that's what I started to do. And so then, of course, I hit Sethikus up at Black Earth Productions. I got initiated, and I got my, just an overview blueprint reading. And then I took that and I ran with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know, honestly, if you don't know anything about astrology, you want to learn, the best thing you can do is find a mentor at first, somebody, or start looking into astrology books, or start looking into, videos and stuff. That, that's kind of what I did. And then as I began to, flow into it, and I began to do the work and actual clearing, and transmutation and transformational processes, I found that I actually had astrology codes within my templating, on the soul level, and so they started kind of unlocking. So then it started becoming like, oh, the light bulb started coming on, because I realized that I kind of knew this already, and so it really presented itself in that way to me personally. Now, not everybody's going to have that, because not everybody's going to have that type of soul code genetics. I just happen to. So, and it's not, and it is something that you can develop, over your studies and over your research. But stepping into a basic knowledge, at least, is as far as I'm concerned, is a priority and mandatory if you want to do the work of gnosis in your life.
Great. Yeah. Derek, do you have a question for him?
Oh, of course. And it's that 3-letter word of a question. Why? Yeah, it's a great place to start. And, even today I'm asking myself, well, why did I, downplay and underestimate astrology for so long? Even when I had activations a decade ago, pretty much, and I didn't know what to do with it or whatever. And and all that stuff, and just being able to like properly navigate, you know, everything within you, as above so below, and all the, you know, galaxies within. And yeah, like you mentioned, there's so many gates and doors towards, you know, others, so many like levels and dimensions and everything. And but yeah, there's just just for people like already you understand and have heard, like we're not talking about typical astrological horoscopal type of stuff. This is like applied astropsychology, where, you know, it's to help the soul integration and evolution and one's life path. And if people are still kind of wondering and confused and lost on, like, you know, what's my life's purpose and all this stuff, like this is pretty key stuff right here. So yeah.
Yeah, what I deal with, what I work with is, and what I, you know, one of my mission aspects here is to help people come into a position where they're learning how to work with high planetary magic and planetary alchemy on the solar spiral of creation and creating solar initiates. So, you know, when we talk about solar initiates, what does that mean? That means that you are starting to understand your solar spiral templating within you. And this becomes a very powerful tool for you to work with to clear out the miasma. You know, Neptune holds a lot of delusion and illusional aspects, and that's running to the 12th house of Pisces, see? And so this is the deep waters where when you look at the ocean, what do you see? You see a body of water, but there's a whole nother world underneath that ocean, see, that's going on. Another reality that's happening, see, that's not really a part of what we're doing above the surface of the ocean.
Right.
That's Neptune. That's how Neptune works, and that's how the energies work. So when you're working with understanding how to, you know, clear out the miasma, the dream fog, right, the smoke, you know, not being able to know where the hell you're going. This particular art of gnosis, what it does is it helps you to clear the smoke, the fog, the miasma, the Neptune illusional aspect, and bring yourself into a place where you're actually seeing who you are. See? Yeah. And so you start at the wheel. You know, Aries is the first house, which is your ascendant, right? And that's the self. And this is what you're trying to integrate. So where your ascendant falls in context to the wheel is what you're trying to integrate into your soul complex, in context to what you're supposed to be bringing up. It's what's, you know, in context to the ascension. So that's what's rising in the east when you're born.
So is that a good place to start, Rodney? Like maybe walk us through where to begin looking at the chart to, and because there's so much more obviously than the sun sign, right? There's all the planets, there's the conjunctions, there's the, you know, all these aspects. Can you give an overview and how you would advise someone to start that journey and progress?
So a lot of people look at things different. You know, a lot of astrologers work different ways. Personally, I do like to look at the ascendant first. And the reason why is because that is what's rising in the east in your templating. And it is, you know, it is what you really, and it's first house. So it's always what you're trying to integrate within yourself. Your ascendant becomes a very powerful aspect to understand and understand, because if you can't get that, you know, then how are you ever going to work with your moon or your sun energies? Just starting off with this. And, you know, everybody talks about, well, what's your sign? You know, what's your sign? You know, well, I'm a, you know, and they're talking about their sun. But your sun is what you're here to build. It's your kingdom. See? How are you going to build that kingdom? You've got to integrate your ascendant first. You got to learn how to integrate what's rising in the east in context what's rising in your templating. So what's coming up needs to be, you know, it's just starting, it's dawning, right? So this is the space where you're going to have your challenges to yourself. And then by taking that and understanding your Saturnian energy in context to those challenges, delays, and limitations, you know, these are places that you really need to look at, I think, starting off, you know, and then The second place that I go is your moon, because your moon it's like your GPS of the car. It's how you're navigating things, and this is what gets jammed in context to how you're navigating your life, your thought and emotion, your mind. And so those are the two spaces or two areas that I go to first, or I would go to first to look at, and then go to your sun, because then your sun is going to be the place where you're going to be building something, right? And it's your kingdom, it's your ego aspect, it's your will force, and so that brings light to the moon, it brings light to the ascendant. That, but it's like, if you don't know how to wield your ascendant correctly, how are you ever going to build anything?
Right.
How are you going to navigate to build? If you don't know how to navigate, how are you ever going to build anything? And this is why people, they get tossed around, because they don't know what their moon is and why they're getting jammed. They don't know what their ascendant is and what they're supposed to integrate. So if you don't have those two, for me, if you don't have those two ingredients in the dish, you're just not going to have it's not going to be a very flavorful dish.
Yeah. So tell us more about the moon, and what does that represent? What is the power of the moon, our moon sign?
So the moon energy is highly important, because, like I said, it's how you're navigating your thought and emotion. So what does the moon do? What is its power? Think about how powerful the moon is on this planet. It literally moves the largest the oceans, the lakes, everything, from one side of the tides to the other, literally. And it moves the water on the planet. It moves the water within you. See, your emotional aspect, right? And this is what gets used against us in context to jamming your moon. See, because it's learning how to understand emotional intelligence, because where is moon anchored? It's anchored in the Cancer energy. That's the fourth house. So Cancer then is the initiation in context to your moon. See?
Right.
So intelligence that's getting messed with, and then if you want to take it to cosmic principle in context to natural law or the Hermetica, it's the pendulum swing, right? So things are getting pulled back and forth, and you never find rest to the seventh house of Libra, where we find balance and harmony in context to what? The scales, see? And so where your moon placing becomes very important, because that is where they're jamming you. And and your alchemical process, is never going to get sparked, and you're never going to have that sun ignition, star core ignition within you until you understand your moon and your ascendant. See, and bringing that into alignment, with natural law. So that's how I work with people.
That's exciting. Can you give an example? Are you prepared to maybe share a real life example of how the moon placement, how it can be, jam you up, and then what you do about that?
Okay. Let's say your moon's in Aries. Let's say it's in the third house. Okay. All right. Aries moon. What is Aries? Aries ruled by Mars. It's hot energy, right? Right next to the sun. Hot, you got Mercury, you got Mars. It's a lot of power. It's your warrior codes. It's your, it's your energy. It's your energy aspect of your body. It's all your passion, right? So if a person has a Aries moon, okay, then a lot of times what begins to happen with them is they react before they think. And if it's a third house, which is what, Gemini, right? So you're dealing with twins, you're dealing with polarities. An Aries moon can get swung back and forth very easily, because the Aries moon hasn't learned from Scorpio, which is its octave. Okay. That's where the Aries moon has to go. It's got to go to Scorpio, which is the octave. That's what teaches the Aries moon. See? And if it's in third house, you're overthinking, and you know, and then you're acting out, you know, in context of making choices, and then you get caught in the crap because you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have made that choice. See, but you didn't think about it. You didn't look at the variables. You didn't see anything else, but just, you know, the fire rushing to your head, you know, and that's how Aries moon. Let's say a Pisces moon. That's what I have. Okay, let's go to the extreme opposite. Pisces moons, right? Very dreamy, very wavy, right? Very emotional, very deep waters, right? So Pisces moons can really get caught in illusions because it's ruled by Neptune. So you create a lot of illusions, not only about yourself, but about situations, especially taking it to relationships. And all of this stuff can come up in your mind about relationships. Let's just take it to a stupid thing. Okay, my girlfriend didn't text me for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, right? Or my friend over here who, you know, we're friends and stuff, hasn't hit me up for a couple of days. Then your Pisces moon starts to go to work because it wants to see the big picture of what's going on, you know, and it's like, well, I wonder what I did wrong. I wonder if I did something wrong. I wonder if I said this or if I said that. And you start kind of trying to dissect everything, see? Instead of standing in your own self-confidence and self-strength and you know, and learning how to grab a hold of that Taurus energy, see, your groundedness, see?
Yes.
And so the Pisces can get off the rails emotionally pretty fast with the illusion, see?
Yes, yes.
So then their moon gets jammed because now they're making choices and decisions out of illusion instead of actual logic and reason, which is the 6th house. So you're dealing with that 12th house, which, you know, which is powerful. It's your imagination, it's your intuition, right? But that can turn into these deep illusions, see? And so you got to be careful with that. So these are kind of the idea of how moons get jammed.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, so man, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, just to reiterate, it's kind of like, yeah, if you're not in alignment, then yeah, there's as far as like inner conflicts.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. And I was listening to a reading you did in one of your last videos from November, and it says something really interesting. I'm going to take this out of context. I don't know if you remember or not, but you said something about like gaining perspective of both sides of the polarity. And then later on you mentioned, you know, the 8th house being the galactic center.
Okay, so it's the 9th house. 9th house is the galactic center, and that runs from 26 to 28 degrees. This is Sagittarius. And this is why Jupiter is so powerful, because it anchors the energy of Sagittarius. And so placings within that 8-degree range within Sagittarius in your chart, whether it's 9th house or actual Sagittarian gate energies, become very, very powerful in your life. Because this is the place where what I call fire magic. And so this is where we're wielding the higher mind, the higher aspect, the higher learning, our higher selves, our galactic center in context to what our ignition is to our heart. And so understanding, the polarity aspect as, let's say, as a magician or a mage, you have to understand how to work with the energy force. See, but to do that and not get pulled into a bunch of garbage, you've got to be able to find Libra, and Libra becomes the gates of wisdom, the center, the balance, the harmony of the 7th gate. See, and this is where things are wheeled out to or come to as without. So how I look at it is the first 6 gates are as within, and then to the 7th gate. The 7th gate becomes as without as you move through those gates of wisdom to the elements of the mage. And so understanding how to work with the polarity is imperative, because you've got to know how to, you can go and charge something. There's nothing wrong with charging it. If you want to look at it in context of charging something, your moon would be your negative charge and your sun would be your positive charge. See? And when you find a balance between your sun and your moon, you can work with your transits, the alchemical process, which is working with your sun and your moon transits, your solar returns, your lunar returns, when the moon, the sun's transiting aspects in your chart, this is how we work with planetary alchemy. And understanding what's being charged with your moon energy, what's being charged with your sun energy, and then being able to stay in that balance and harmony of of the seventh gate of Libra, what rules that Venus. So
Right.
then Venus becomes a very powerful aspect in your chart, especially if you have a lot of Venus energy. Let's say you have a Libra ascendant like myself, then that becomes your chart signifier. Okay, so Venus is your ruling planet of your chart, so it becomes more important for you to be able to find balance and harmony, not only to your Taurus energies, but to your Libra energies in context to relationships.
Okay. So now add in the squares and trines and oppositions and all that. Can you give us a little rundown on some of the meanings of those terms and then how that can inform us?
Well, I got a chart I can pull up. I don't know how I would do that. Is there a way that I can share a chart?
Yeah, if you see by the settings, there's a way to share your screen, and then I'll accept it. But yeah, while you're looking that up, I'll just say that yes, speaking with him to set this conversation up the other day, he was mentioning an interesting thing with the good old Jimi Hendrix, and
oh yeah,
it was interesting, and yeah, so yeah, I got so caught up on what you were trying to say. It's like really mind blowing, and confirming in so many ways and aspects, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around just what all the houses represent and all the signs and the archetypes of all the planets. But yes. As far as like taking it back to like these internal conflicts and things of that nature, it's like, yeah, what I meant to say is like when there's not that congruency of the intelligent mind of the heart and like the mind, like, right, there's that tug going on with that moon you were saying. So yeah, I thought that very interesting.
Yeah, your moon becomes very important to, let's just say, look at it like this. If you have your car, the engine, the combustion of the engine is your sun. Okay, it's gonna move the car. It's gonna you're gonna have power, right? But where are you going? So if you don't have a GPS, linked up to your sun, then you don't have any direction in your life. You've got no navigation. You're bumping into curbs and running into houses. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You got no navigation. So you've got to have a steering wheel. You've got to have navigation. You got to have brakes. You got to have a GPS. A map. So your ascendant and your moon become your mapping. Okay. It's kind of like what how you're mapping out your destination, where you want to go. And then your sun is your power. It's your will force. It's your ego. And I'm not one who that teaches destruction of the ego. I teach that the ego is healthy if we can balance it with our intuition. See, and it becomes a power force for us, a will force that we use to become a great human being. A great person, a great magician, a great shaman. And then we'd be able to take that to our sixth house. Service to others, right? That's taken into the sixth house, and then our health, also sixth house, right? Dealing with how we're taking care of our, of our body, And so if we take it to that sixth house, service to others, and then the seventh house of Libra to relationships outside of ourselves, this is how we change things. But you're never going to change anything with outside of yourself until you deal with your internal dialogue. And that's taken to your moon, your emotions, and then also to Gemini, which is what? That's your internal dialogue in context to the twins, to the polarity aspect. How are you speaking about yourself within yourself? Yeah. How are you communicating with yourself? See, inside your mind. And if you have a lack of self-worth, Taurus. See, a lack of self-validation, Taurus. Again, see, you know, and you're lazy. That's Taurus. See,
Mm.
and you don't have, and you're not dealing with that second gate and your first gate of Aries, which is what, dealing with all your Mars energy. Where's it going? What do you actually have passion about, and what are you putting into action? See, so you got to learn how to deal with those first 6 gates before you could ever work towards, Libra, and then the elements of the magician taking it to Scorpio, water, Sagittarius, fire, Capricorn, earth, Aquarius, air. See, and then you take it to the 12th house, which is the shamanic aspect, which is the big picture. See, and so that's how we wield it out in context of becoming mages. But you've got to start with those first 6 gates, because this is where everything's locked down. It's inside. It's the vision within you, like you're saying. And so, how are you speaking about yourself within yourself? Are you actually listening to that voice, that God voice within you? I love Michael Cesarion's, dissertation on the voice within. Because it really speaks in context to the Gemini energies.
Yeah, great explanation there, Rodney.
So getting into, I couldn't figure out how to bring a chart up. All right, so this is basically these are the aspects. These are just kind of like major aspects. There's minor aspects as well, but we won't get into those. So hard aspects, let's look at those. Okay, did you guys know that a conjunction is a hard aspect? It is. So I look at conjunctions at 8 degrees. So 4 on one side, 4 degrees on one side, 4 degrees on the other side. So let's say you have Mars Venus conjunction. That is a hard aspect, okay? Because both of those planets' energies are in union. Okay, so basically a conjunction is what we call a union of planets, of however many that are in there. I've seen people with a union of 4 conjuncted planets within 4 to 5 degrees. Wow, talk about a lot to work out. So basically this is conjunction. Okay, so the planets merge, energies combine, entwine as one, strongest aspect, dominant statement. 3 or more planets are what we call a stellium. So basically, this is this can become a very powerful aspect if you can really go to work on it. And you can really bring these planets into what I call a synesis, where they're all coming into one river. They're coming into one energy. So you've got these planets and they're really working together now, instead of, like they're trying to come into union, but let's say you're squared off with something, right? So you got to come to the square. What does that mean? That's a 90-degree angle. So on the wheel is a 360, it's a circle, 360 degrees. So you're taking what? You're taking that conjunction and you're going to 90-degree angle, and it's aspecting another orb, another planetary body. What is a square? It's pressure, okay? It's tension. It motivates action, stress in the mind, pressure to do, catalyst to act, the nagging voice, the internal stimulant, the self challenges. See, it's the tension between those particular areas of consciousness within your soul that need to be not only dissolved but resolved and worked out. So then they're not your weakness anymore. They become your strength. Okay. The other one we deal with is what's called an opposition. Now, an opposition basically is where we have to find balance. So we're looking at axis here. So let's say oppositions, 1-7 axis, Aries, Libra. Those are oppositions, okay? 6-12 axis, Virgo, Pisces. Those are oppositions, okay? So if you have a lot of oppositions in your chart, it means that you're here to basically resolve, these aspects within your templating to bring balance to them, so that you can work with both sides of those energies whenever you need them, and you can call upon them as your strengths. So these are basically the hard aspects. So how do we work with those? Okay, we work with them through the soft aspects. The soft aspects are going to be your strengths. These are trines and sextiles. So a trine is 120 degrees. And what does it do? It's free flow of energies, areas of talent, no friction, often underused, no problems, too easy. And they can become lazy energies as well if you don't watch it. But let's say what a trine would actually be. So if a sextile is like a communication between planets, a trine would be they're actually going to work together. Like we are actually linking up and we're going to go to work. So a sextile is a 60 degree. And basically those are supportive energies, opportunities, finding, not realizing, helpful abilities, meddling setbacks that can become. They also can become intrusive occurrences and the almosts. So where we have to work with our sextiles is allowing flow. There's flow between those two planets or whatever conjunctions are there in context to that, and they're flowing energies. So what we have to do is we have to work with our flowing energies, our trines, our aspects, to kind of help resolve our hard aspects, our oppositions, our squares, our oppositions, our conjunctions. So I have another chart here. I'll just bring this up.
Would it be helpful to give an example from some chart that you're familiar with about those aspects and how they might play out?
Okay, so if say you have a lot of squaring off energy on your chart. Okay, what does that mean? That means that you've got a lot of tension, a lot of energies that are pulling like a rubber band. There's a lot of tension there. Okay,
like contradictions or pulling in different directions.
Contradictions would be more opposition.
Okay,
we're just talking about like tension, like there's like a lot of what's the word I want to use? Agitation. Okay, that would be a good one. Like let's say your Venus is squared off with your Mars. All right, or let's say your Sun is squared off with your Mars. Okay, so Sun squared off with Mars, that would be a lot of tension to your soul in context to working with your warrior codes and your power base and your Aries energy. And so what happens is that your Sun wants to learn, it's coming in to learn how to work with Mars, but there's tension there. There's agitation, a lot of anger issues, okay, that you're dealing with Mars. If you have it squared off with your Sun, squared off with with your Moon, a lot of anger issues with that. Let's say your Sun and Moon are squared off. Okay, that's one I see quite a bit, depending on the degree. So there's degrees with this, but let's say you've got Sun and Moon squared off at 0 degrees. What does that mean? That means that you have a lot of tension growing up in your family between your mother and your father. And that was a part of building your subconscious mind aspect in context to as a child, that first 7 years. Typically people who have that squared off either have divorce in their family between their mother and father, or the father may also have or the mother may have health issues growing up. Also, there's a possibility that basically you have a stepfather or a stepmother. And so, so you're, context of building your subconscious structure, that has a big play. And that's how square would work with Sun and Moon.
Okay, great.
So that's tension, as you can see. So conjunction would be union. Okay. Sextile here would be kind of the easing up. A square would be tension. A trine is harmony. And so that's kind of how they work together. you know, going into, you know, your blueprint, how your mind, your thought, your emotion, how they're working, how you're wielding consciousness itself, you know, and then going through those gates. I look at it like this. I like to use the seed analogy for the first 6 gates. So Aries is the seed and the energy inside the seed. Okay. So the seed itself has energy inside of it, but that energy is dormant. This is why Aries is what we call cardinal fire. It's initiatory fire. So when you plant that seed into the ground, right? You put it deep into the ground. What happens? All of a sudden, there's an aggregate created for the seed. The energy is ignited. Aries is ignited. It pops the seed open, and a taproot is established. What is the taproot? That's Taurus. That's the grounding that grounds into the earth. That's the Taurus energy. To really work, people who have a lot of Taurus energy have a real connection with nature, because Taurus, to me, is really nature, and learning how to understand the roots of things. So as that taproot goes down, it pushes that seed up, right? And it breaks the ground. The whole of that seed comes off, and the 2 petals open up. What is that? That's the air element. That's Gemini. The 2 petals. Then the water, right? The water is the other element that has to come. So the seed can establish its roots, right? That's 4th house. That's Cancer. You have to have the sun. That's Leo. That's 5th house. Photosynthesis has to begin to happen. That's 5th house. As that plant begins to grow, it begins to fill out. Photosynthesis is taking place. Water is happening. Nutrients are being put in. It's grounding. The roots are going deeper. What has to happen? It needs to be pruned. That's 6th house. That's Virgo. So that's how I kind of see, if you want to look at, you know, the energy to like a plant.
I love that.
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. Wow.
And so that's the internal aspect of the plant, see? So if you want to get to the fruit aspect, you got to go through the Libra gate, right? Because the plant has to establish a balance. And I believe that the 8th to 12th houses are the fruit on the tree. And so this is kind of how things work. I pulled up another chart, if you really want to look at it real quick. It's actually another really great musician that I like, trumpet player. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Miles Davis.
Oh, yeah. Jazz, right?
Yeah. This is Miles Davis's chart.
Ooh la la. Wow. Wow. That's beautiful.
So those are squares, those big red.
I'll show you what this is. This is a grand cross and a grand square.
Good for you.
So these lines that are running all the way through the circle here in the middle, these are oppositions. Okay. And these here, all these red lines that are running connecting the oppositions are the squares. Okay. This is what we call a grand cross, grand square on the wheel. And then of course he has a grand trine here as well with you know, got his Mars here to the Plutonian energy here, right? So that's, you know, that's dealing with that. You got Mars, Pluto over to Saturn, conjunct the moon. See? So what are we running here? We are running a grand water trine with Miles Davis. And he's running oppositions here, right? With the Aquarian energy, with his Jupiter, and then taking it down here to his Neptune. So these are all very strong aspects that he has in his chart. Not only does he have a grand water trine, but he's got all this tension that's running his chart, right here. And then these oppositions in context to how things are being pulled inside of him. And he took all of this energy and he put it into his music.
Wow.
See, this is why he became, was able to become famous and become a great artist, because he was able to learn how to use the music, right? To bring his expression through his trumpet, through his writing, through how he did this. Jimi Hendrix has a similar chart like this. And you find that these musicians that are very powerful, that have these great self-expressions through their instrument, have a lot of these square tensions or oppositions going on with them. See?
So would you kind of draw the conclusion, looking at a chart like that internally, emotionally, and intellectually, that it's a very complex mind, that there's lots of tension and emotion, conflicts within that need transmutation or expression, and that is, for these like musicians, been translated into music?
This is their alchemical process.
Okay.
Boom!
Exactly, man. Yeah, it's quite magical.
The instrument becomes the place where they wield their magic.
Mm.
How they work it out within themselves. This is how they move the energy. See?
Yeah.
And this is what people have to understand. You have to learn how to move energy, and you've got to have a conduit to move it through. If you don't have that, you're going to get stagnant. You're going to have psychosis. You're going to have illusions. You're going to have, things within your life that are, let's just use this as an example. Let's say that I have 365 days of clothes. I can wear something different every day for 365 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I go home, I take my clothes off, I throw them in the corner. The next morning I wake up, I get me a new set of clothes, I put them on. And I do that for 365 days, and I don't do laundry. I'm just throwing them in the corner every day. Okay? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to the clothes in the corner?
They're just going to be and kind of clogged up, right? All
things can happen. They're going to start smelling. They're going to start having all kinds of, the energy's stagnant. It's going to
fester.
Useless too.
Growing in there. I mean, who knows? Because you're not dealing with what? You're not dealing with your alchemical process.
Right.
See? You're not dealing with your flow. I stopped the screen share on that, by the way.
Yes.
No worries. Yeah.
I'm trying to get back on where you guys are at.
But yeah, the whole flow of being able to, it's a daily operation of just, transmuting everything going on, and move
it through.
So moving energy involves like not staying rigid or stuck, but also not avoiding, things that are happening, right? You have to face things and move things and find tools to move the energy through.
How many people don't like conflict?
Well, most people.
See? Yeah. They don't like to confront not only themselves, but any situations that arise above them. What do? They push it down.
Yeah.
What's ironic is that people are so attracted to drama. They like to gossip and all that stuff, but like real conflict, it's another topic.
Oh yeah, it's so much easier to talk behind your back than to your face.
Mm-hmm. So we got to do our dirty laundry. We got to face it. We got to clean it.
You've got to wash your system with the water of Scorpio. Transformation.
So emotion is so important as a way of keeping. That emotion has to keep moving. Needs to be cleansed, dealt with, faced, transmuted, right? And so the tools, like for these musicians, is their instrument, their guitar, their voice, their expressive creation. And so how important is it, like from an from your perspective as an astrologer, to have creative outlets?
You have to have multiple,
Mm-hmm.
not just one. You know, you have to create those, you know, and you have to work towards your abilities, you know, and you can learn anything, but there are certain things that you are, like, you know, drawn to, you're pulled to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with me, it's been music. You know, I play multiple instruments, you know,
Mm-hmm.
writing as well. I write, teaching. You know, these are all alchemical processes that move energy. Look, emotion is a frequency. Okay, it's energy in motion. So, you know, there's all these what frequencies that are running inside of us, right? And if we're not working with those frequencies to move energy, right, up our spine, look, your south node, I'm just going to throw this out. Your south star, your south node is the energy that runs up your spine. See? So, but it's also the place where you need healing.
Mm-hmm.
How do we do that? By understanding our North Star, navigation to our North Star.
Right.
And when we can go to navigate to our North Star, our South Star gets ignited, right? It's our past incarnations in context of what we're bringing in, right?
Yeah.
What's our South Star, our energy, right? What's running up our spine.
Yeah.
Our North Star is our navigational point. See?
Right. Yes. So there's a path, a direction that our systems are meant to flow from, and it's guided through these planetary alignments in a way, right? Or like,
right. Because if you look at what we call our MC line, which is the top of the chart, right? Okay, so the MC line becomes the place where, you know, it runs in 10th house. So it's where you want to bring things into manifestation, not only in context to your life path and your career and what you want to put into action, but to your talents as well. See?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, so you can look at those gates. That's how we look at them. And we can wield the energy when we, like artists, and, you know, painting, and, you know, building something, and constructing, and, you know, having things that are going to ground you, are imperative to the alchemical process. You know, martial arts is another one that, you know, that is powerful to use to move energy with, you know, understanding,
so, like,
you know,
if you look at a chart and it's predominantly, let's say, air, right, that would then inform you that you need to balance that with earth, right? How would you work with those elements as well to create balance as guidelines?
So the air element is basically thought.
Right.
You know, so it's going to be, you know, you have Gemini, the twins. You take it to Libra, the scales. You know, so you got 2 scales, 2 twins, right? And then you take it to Aquarius, see, which is the higher aspect of the air element. Okay, what? The water bearer. See, so if you can get to Aquarius, which is what we call the air magician, then you're going to learn how to actually construct things together. So let's say you want to build a house, all right? You need the materials to build the house, okay? You need to manifest the materials to build it, right? The structures, the foundations. That's Capricorn. That's the earth magician. But how do you want to construct it? Where do you want to put the plumbing? Where do you want to put everything, right? That's the blueprint. That's Aquarius. That's the air magician. So all the thought that goes into how to put it together is Aquarius. That's why the high ideas, the high, you know, humanitarian projects, group settings, networking, all that is 11th gate, which is, you know, the age of Aquarius into that aspect. See, and so, but to do that, you've got to be able to what? Balance your hemispheres with Gemini through Libra. See, and then Libra is the cardinal element of air, of the air elements, the cardinal sign, right? It's where everything's initiated from. If you can't find balance and harmony with what you're doing, what are you going to create? Chaos. You're never going to do that, because Gemini is always going to be pulled right and left.
Okay. So there's really no good or bad when you're looking at a chart, right? Even if there's squares and oppositions, you don't necessarily interpret that as bad, but oh, where'd he go? There you are.
You're
Are you
good,
there,
yeah.
Ronnie? Did we lose you?
Looks like it, yeah. No.
I'm going to go to the bathroom while you find him.
Yeah, no worries. Dun-dun-dun. Hello. His network connection is 0. Damn.
Where'd he go?
His connection was pretty bad, and I think he just went offline and probably trying to reboot it. We will see. Shoot. Let's see if don't know if he tried to message us on Facebook or not.
Not yet. He's writing me though.
Is there?
Well, I think he's writing. Oh, the electricity just went off.
Oh, damn. Oh, yeah, tell him no worries. Take his time. No problemo. Yeah, this is super interesting, right? Fuck.
Yeah. Okay, his router's rebooting.
No worries. Na, 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 na. That was really fun.
Yeah. I'm realizing, the gaps in my knowledge lead me to look, do my questions even make sense? Sometimes when you don't.
No, it's great. I love your questions. I'm so glad you brought some for show. Yeah. There we go.
Sorry, man. I just had a glitch in the matrix.
I know, right? Yeah, weird, right? All right.
It's just literally like boom, and it came back on. I don't know, man.
So my question is around, people's perception of difficulty, right? Or of tension. So you might look at a chart and it has a lot of squares and oppositions and you might think that's bad. But really, I'm assuming you're not thinking of it as good or bad. Those tensions actually can be the impetus to great creation, right? Like how do you approach that philosophically?
Absolutely, because without challenge, what are you going to do? See? And so the challenge becomes the drive, and I don't look at, I know a lot of astrologers look at malevolent planets and benevolent planets and all that. I don't look at it like that per se. I look at things more in context to what's challenging us to become great, and that's how I approach things, because it becomes if we start looking at, oh man, it's Mercury retrograde, man, here we go again, if you start having that mindset, right? I see these memes. I'm not participating in Mercury retrograde.
That's silly.
Right? It's just silly. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you
Yeah,
are.
there's a lot of new age stuff with those notions and all that, and that's kind of what kind of deterred me from like astrology. Like, yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. For me, I was kind of weary about those things, even though I was really fascinated by them, like the mystical arts or whatever. And it's like the same with tarot. There's so many people just trying to make a quick buck off of it. You know, we see the stereotypical gypsies, you know, got their hustle on with that and whatever, and ooh, divination, whatever. But it's like, no, this is actual practical stuff you are applying to your life on a daily basis. And yeah, I just love, you know, everything you've been talking about, Rodney. I'm gonna be back in just a minute, but continue on.
Yeah. So let's look at like the chart, like a Miles Davis or Jimi Hendrix. A lot of squares oppositions, right? They were able to take that energy and use it and transmute it through their, through their instrument, through their songwriting, through these alchemical processes. Look at a guy like Jim Morrison. Okay, a lot of people, like that guy's crazy, but he's out telling people you're nothing but a bunch of slaves. See, he actually has shamanic stuff going on in his chart, but understand how to wield it. See,
right.
But he took the energies and wrote all these crazy songs.
Yes.
See,
are there other parts of the chart, like planetary stuff or whatever, that help guide you as to how to maneuver through your challenges?
Yeah, that's where I use the trines, help people use the trines and the sextiles, and and then working with their conjunctions to be able to learn how to resolve their squares and oppositions. But one of the biggest things with people with a lot of oppositions, they need to learn how to balance their hemispheres.
Balance their hemispheres?
Yeah.
Okay. And that would be between like moon and sun?
Or ego and intuition.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I believe that the brain, right, is the 6th and 12th house. You have the 6th house side, right? Logic, reason, compartmentalizing, putting things in order. It can become obsessive if you're too left-brained. See,
right.
You can become OCD. You can become very obsessive with things. Like let's say somebody comes in your house and you've got something sitting, on the coffee table, and they move it a little bit, and that bothers the hell out of you because they moved something that you put there. See,
right.
You become very OCD, being left brain, right brain, intuition. 12th house, Pisces, right? Okay, you can become too dreamy, too illusional, not grounded, not being able to connect with reality. See, and this is where a lot of mental health happen. Mental problems happen, bipolarism. Because you're not able to actually come into balance and balance your hemispheres. See? So grounding techniques on how to balance, your hemispheres becomes imperative to people who have a lot of oppositions in the chart.
Right. And what approaches do you recommend to people for that purpose?
Just teaching grounding techniques.
Yeah. Being in the present moment, grounding in your body.
Yeah. I mean,
your senses, your 5 senses.
Exactly. Learning how to ground yourself, and meditation, of course, is a great practice because, you're able to bring yourself into a place where you're clearing, your past, your future, anxiety, face the anxiety, how do you balance the sympathetic and the parasympathetic? See,
yes,
you're not being pulled into flight, fight, and freeze all the time.
Right. Very good.
I
have a question about, so let's say a person's chart does not have planets in particular houses, or they're not, what does that mean? What's missing from their chart?
Okay, so let's say a person has, let's say they have Sun and Saturn conjunct, and there's no aspects. It's just out there by itself. That's a conjunction, okay? That would mean that basically those two planets, the Sun, this will force, the soul, and Saturn, are going to have to work it out because there isn't anything helping. There's nothing aspecting your position there. So your soul, your sun, right? Your soul, your will force, your kingdom, your ego is going to go through it. See? It's going to go through. It's going to have to go through Saturn. There is no way around it. You are stuck. You have to put yourself in that position. You came in and put yourself in that position to grind it out. Now, depending on what gate it's in and what, and what house is magnifying the energy back behind, that's what you have to work with. See? And so if you have anything that's not aspecting, it's out by itself, the energies you have to work with are the gate and the house back behind it. That's what you got to go to. See? And so in some ways, that's actually a little bit easier in some ways, because you can really focus your attention more on working with those two aspects, like Sun and Saturn. See?
Okay.
But again, it brings things into a place where, you are, you're coming into to work on a specific thing. See, with that type of a placing, you're not looking at the, more of the big picture. You're here to work on your Sun and your Saturn. Those are, and this is where you need to look at. This is where you wield your consciousness to,
Good.
Or let's say you have Neptune and Venus. So Venus and Neptune, if Venus are octaves of each other. Okay, let's say if you want to look at it, let's say Venus would be, the sister, right? Neptune's the big sister. Okay, so let's say those are out there by themselves, conjunct, right? So what are you working on? You're learning how to work with all the illusions about, yourself, self-worth, self-validation, and relationships, and the Neptune energy then becomes the 12th house in context of getting lost in those. See, you get lost and you get in your self-worth, you get lost in your self-validation, you get lost in relationships, you don't know how to navigate anything. And so you've got to learn how to work with those, with your Neptune, you got to learn how to work with your Venus. If they're out there by themselves, just railing against each other in conjunction. See?
Yeah, it could be kind of a relief, actually, to maybe do some of these astrological readings to then understand frustrating parts of your life, right? Why things
absolutely
way, and then it can give clarity and then direction.
Yeah, why am I so angry all the time?
Yeah.
Oh, my Mars is squared off with my Sun. See? Why don't I have any drive? Oh, my Mars is in 12th house. It's passive. Or my Mars is in Cancer. It's emotional. See? Yeah, so Mars becomes emotional in Cancer, right? Becomes passive in 12th house, right? So to find, to understand, when you understand that, you realize that, oh, my challenge is not to be passive with my Mars energy. It's in 12th house, but I got to learn how to bring it into Aries.
Yeah, and move the stagnant energy.
Yeah, or Leo. See, my confidence, right? I got to learn how to bring it into my Leo. See? Because what are we dealing with? Your warrior of Aries, your confidence with Leo, Sagittarius, the higher aspect, the higher learning, the guru, the teacher, learning how to become that teacher to your 9th house.
So see? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was laughing because my moon has squared off with Mars, and my moon's in Aquarius and a fire sign of Leo, and my Libra is ascending. So just going over my life and considering all those aspects, and I was doing this inner work and trying to figure out why I'd have temper tantrums when as a younger adolescent, and not being able to control and wield my magic or emotion and all that stuff, and let that stuff get the best of me. And so just understanding the astrological recipe of bringing it to Libra and finding that balance within, and I got Saturn on a 29th degree, and so Sethikus was saying man, you've had it kind of rough, and I've had to learn it the hard way in a lot of ways, and so
Libra Ascending, because I'm a Libra Ascendant, man.
Am I? I am too.
Learning how to wield relationships, man. you know, and that's a challenge all the way through, not only to yourself, but to your partner, to, you know, to your workplace, to, you know, to your parents, to your kids, to your siblings, you know, all the way down the line. That's relationships, you know. And so we have, you know, inner, you know, the you know, then our circle, and then our outer circle, and Libra is all of that. See, and then business partnerships as well. So you're learning how to integrate. So we're integrating Libra ascendants are integrating balance and harmony with relationships.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the power of the Libra energies. And then going through that Libra gate, right? Once you find it, within and without, to the 8th house, Scorpio, where you make transformation. See? And then once you start working with, you know, with the water, right? The powerful emotional transformative transmutation aspect, it's on. See? You know, it's on to the fire element of Sagittarius, the 9th gate, you know, all the higher learning, you know, seeking out a teacher, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. Okay. Now let's talk about Saturn and how you approach that's, you know, about the qualities of Saturn, and then how do you approach that? Yeah. And you have a special program that you're offered too about that you can talk about.
Oh yeah, and I kind of want to hear your approach as well in regards to like the inversions and how it's been hexed and the whole 666 in the mix and all that jazz. But you know what?
Now they call it the black sun, right?
Yeah, man. So yeah.
So Saturn, the Saturn moon, we want to call Saturn moon matrix or whatever they call it, you know, the inversions are where things are locked down in what we call a tesseract or a cube. So it's like you know, you have to have a key to get out. Okay, all right. So the very thing that they lock you down in context, right? You already have the key to get out, right? But you don't know it. You don't know you got the key in your pocket, in your mind, right? Because you're being inverted. You're being drove into what? Into the abyss. See? It's where they siphon the energy off. This is where it's all charged. So they flip cosmic principle, which is what Saturn represents, right? And what is the beast? 666. Who can wage war against the beast? Time.
Huh.
Saturn anchors time in our solar system.
Oh wow.
It's Chronos.
So they're using time against us. That makes total sense.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I kind of refer to this whole, you know, since the fall of Atlantis, we're kind of like in this fallen time matrix. You know, we're way off of the organic Earth timeline and all that stuff, and yeah, going into the blood and all these, you know, crucifixion implants and stuff, and like finding those inner keys to unlock all this stuff, and go into the blood and, you know, make that super inner multidimensional healing. You know. It's a lifelong process, like you said, just like learning astrology, you know, and working with the tarot and all these live arts and sciences that we just can apply so much to our lives. And we have to have that proper gnosis of them because they're being used against us in a lot of ways, right? So
religion has pulled people into the cube. I mean, if you look at Mecca, what do? They go around the cube, right?
It's a huge siphon,
You know? They actually have a religious ceremony that takes you around the cube, right? It's the black cube and the white robes around it, you know, in Mecca, literally.
Wow.
So you have like a ceremony with Islam for the actual Saturnian energy, Saturnina. This is what these controllers worship, Saturnian worship, in context to the black sun and the black sun consciousness. And we see it in the sky in context to vibrational correspondence with humanity through the eclipse process. What's being eclipsed? Our heart core intelligence. What are we betraying? Our star core activation. How are we being locked down? Saturn moon matrix in context to jamming the moon and inversions of natural law.
Okay, so let's say, for example, Saturn in Pisces. What might that imply? And what do you do with that?
My Saturn's in Pisces.
Mm-hmm. Mine too.
so And so is my Chiron. So Saturn in Pisces. Oh, yeah, that's been a rough one for me. So it's really it's what is Saturn? Okay, it's gonna teach you. All right. It's your limitations. It's what's being delayed. It's your limitations. It's not gonna let you go until you learn the lesson. All right. So what is 12th house? It's all your shamanic energy. It's all the energy of, isolation and energy of escapism and drug use and, on down the line. See, so you've got to go through the process of learning how, again, to learn the lessons of the 12th gates. Okay, 12th house. And so when you are going through, as myself being a Saturnian Piscean, right? I had to go through the lessons because I've got it in what? Fifth. It's sitting in 5th house. My soul expression of Leo. Okay. So it's directly affecting my soul's journey, where my Saturn placing is in context to the 5th house, Leo. So being able to find myself, my will force within my shamanic abilities has been delayed in my life. It didn't happen. I mean, I had an initiation at an early age in context to this. I got my fire letter codex, my heart core intelligence opened up at a young age, right? But I didn't know how to wield it, right? My shamanic abilities have always been there, even from a child, right? Didn't know how to wield it correctly because my moon was getting jammed because it's in Pisces too. See? And my Chiron is all my, all my woundedness is setting in the 12th house as well in Pisces. So I had to learn how to overcome that with my Taurus energy. I've got a stellium in Taurus. See? So the stellium in Taurus is where I was able to ground, and had to find my self-validation and self-worth to be able to wield my Piscean energy correctly.
Got it. Yeah.
So it's been the journey. So everything, going through everything, all the lessons I've had, and what is 12th house as well? Hidden enemies. Yay. So I've got a whole bunch of those sitting there in Saturn. See, that are sitting in the ethers, not incarnated, riding in, hammering on me, and if I don't have awareness, I don't know. So then you get pulled, you get swallowed, and so you got to learn how to, that's why I'm a Libra Ascending, because I had to integrate balance and harmony in my life to actually let my shamanic abilities be wielded correctly. My mage energy, my magician energy, bad guy girl shaman. We coined it that way for that purpose.
So what do we, knowing our Saturn, energy, how do we protect ourselves from being pulled into that inversion? How do we?
Learning how to understand the indifference within yourself.
The indifference?
When you're being jammed. If you don't know you're being jammed, if you don't know that you're being indifferent with yourself, if you not honest with yourself, if you're not being real with yourself, trying to become authentic, you don't have a chance. You're not going to know. You're not going to know that your energy is being siphoned off into those grid works, and pulled into the cube, pulled into the religious aspects. This is why I was pulled into the Christian church. And they used my magician and shamanic abilities to feed their grid works. Right. And it almost cost me my life. To stage 4 kidney failure, man.
Wow. So what are the forms? I mean, you just gave an example of one, but the forms of expression in people's life that says they're jammed, they're off balance, they've got to develop mastery over this, their inner self. Signs that things are going wrong.
Health problems. Because you're pushing emotion down, you're pushing frequency down. It's not moving. That's 6th house and 2nd house. If you're not dealing with your self-worth, your self-validation, right, to the 2nd house, what are you doing? Everything you're telling yourself within to the Gemini aspect, you're telling yourself, I just can't do that. I don't think I could handle that kind of rejection. I'm comparing myself to others. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That he does it better than me. I'm not even going to try. Somebody's doing it better than me anyway, so why try? See? So you've got all this internal jamming going on inside your moon, right? Especially with a Piscean moon, because it's waves, man. You're feeling these waves, right? And you're trying to ride the wave, but you're getting drowned.
An
addiction
too, maybe. Do you have any insights about it?
I was getting ready to talk about that, because this is where escapism happens. So we go to what? We go to the alcohol. We go to the drug use, right? Because, and look, I'm not a person that says don't do any of it. Just don't do any of it at all. Okay? Because I believe that there's certain things on this planet that were put here to help with the alchemical process. But it's got to be done correctly. You can't take it and bring yourself into a place of escapism with it where you have no control. You have no control over any of it. And so it's controlling you. You're using as a medicative aspect. You're medicating yourself daily because you are in escape. Look, Pisces can isolate themselves. I could literally live by myself and isolate myself, close the drapes, and just live like a hermit. And I would be actually just fine with that. But my moon is in 6th house. It demands that I have service to others. See? So I can't isolate myself. This is how the old mystics of old used to do it. They'd go outside of the matrix, outside of the cities, into the caves, have communities out there or by themselves. And they would live outside of things. And people would go to them, right, for consultation. We can't do it that way anymore. We've done that. I've done that in past incarnations. Okay? It has to go to the grid works now. We've got to bring the original timeline back online on this planet. The human race is sliding into the abyss. There has to be something that happens where we as magicians and mages and shamans and mystics rise above the pale of the inversions, rise above the pale of the bullshit that's going on this planet, and take authority over it with our mind, have an individual transformation that creates vibrational correspondence to the collective mind of our planet. This is how we're going to get it done. And when we come into network and connection together, it only becomes more powerful as the energy becomes amplified because of our connection.
That's really well said, Rodney. I think that's a great place to sort of tie up today's conversation. Unless you've got some other points you want to play off of that, Derek.
No, yeah, just wonderfully well said. And yeah, how these things tie into the whole escapism. And yeah, we can, do the transurfing or whatever people want to call it, like waltzing in and out of the matrix. And yeah, like back in the days they were just like on the outskirts, all the mages and shamans and folks that. But yeah, today is kind of a different thing, and that's kind of the direction we had with this whole dissolving the divide and trying to reach out to the lowest common person in any kind of city setting. And like, why not transform these things from the inside, out as well? There's a lot of people talking about, going out and making alternative communities off grid. I love those ideas and I'm down for that. But at the same time, like, these problems are going to follow us anywhere we go. Almost, we're not going to be never like not subjected to some of these matrix shit stems, if you will, or systems. That's Mario West likes to say that. But
becomes being able to do it in the midst of the battle.
Right.
See, in the midst of this war on consciousness going on, to be able to become the cause point of it.
Yeah. That's all into this. Yeah, the circle of the magician, the fulcrum, and the storm.
Wielding our power, which we can't really do unless we understand our system, our energy system, and how to find harmony and activation within ourselves.
Right, because our kind have been persecuted for aeons now, not only with the Inquisitions and how religion and some of the Christianity Inquisitions, man, burning people at the stake if they wouldn't hail the papacy, see, and getting into how that was wielded out in context and has literally tried to destroy our kind as shamans, see, as magicians, and it's our time now to take it back, see, on this timeline with the stellar activations that are going on and coming into network with each other. This is our time to rise up and become the power in context to connection to the higher force and wielding that power correctly to these grid works of consciousness, dismantling those dark Syrian grid works and bringing things into a place where our original timeline that got the cataclysmic events, how things got reseeded in the Middle East, and how things got really, really dark. It's our time to bring it back. This is why we're awakening. This is what we came here to do. This is our mission.
Yes.
And we all have our part, whether it's here or there. It doesn't matter. If you come in and you are fulfilling your purpose and your mission in context to knowing who you are, which is the challenge here, that's all. That individual awakening and frequency is going to transmute into the collective consciousness.
Yeah, it just makes it so obvious to me how important it is to do this study in terms of activating our own soul codes, our soul purpose, and what we're here to do at this very vital time in this timeline that we're on. I think we're going to have to get you back, Rodney, to just keep talking about, how, different parts of how astrology can inform us and guide us in terms of how our energies come together, for example, and how astrology impacts, global events or. Yeah. So there's so much.
Yeah. We've got Jupiter coming into Aries right now. Okay. And this, Aries is war, man. So, we're looking at this year coming up, Aries is also a barren sign. So droughts and different types of things like this, war, a lot of narcissistic tendencies, because Jupiter's going to be expanding this energy. Okay. And so, Jupiter and Aries is there's some good stuff with it, but, looking at kind of some of the things that to look out for in 2023, look, I pulled up the chart when all that stuff rolled out in 2020, and I was looking at it and I was like going, holy crap. There was so much Aries energy that was taking place right in that time frame when things got rolled out with all the bullshit that happened in 2020, the beginning of 2020. They used that transit. They literally used those transits that were happening to roll out that agenda. And I tell you, man, this is what they do. And this is how it gets used against us. They literally understand how astrology works, context to the controllers of this planet and the population control programs that are put in place. They literally know how these transits work, and then they invert them to use against the collective.
Right.
This is how they use it. That's how they work with the Saturnian aspect and the moon aspect. See, this is why if you don't understand your Saturn, if you don't understand where your limitations and delays are, where your Saturn placing is. This is why I'm offering this reading, because people, Saturn to the gates. This is why, because people need to understand where their Saturn is, and then through the gates where those limitations and delays are causing them setbacks.
Yes.
See?
Yeah, sounds very pertinent and relevant to these times, that particular reading. So, Rodney, do you want to share a little bit more about like the services you offer and your website and all that?
So just one more point.
Yes.
The tarot, the runes, numerology, it's all in astrology. See, they all correspond. And once you understand that these arts of gnosis weave together, it's like a tapestry. They all weave together with each other. And, you know, what's been demonized in context to religion? Astrology, tarot, runes, numerology, right? They don't want you to know that all of these systems of gnosis weave together a tapestry so that you can learn who you are. Because they don't want you to know who you are. See?
Right.
Because they want you to take on the form of the image of the beast, of the matrix system. See? In context of the black hole sun, of the black hole, you know, abyss construct, and siphoning your energy, as long as they can keep you locked down in your consciousness, right? You're never going to know who you are. Oh, who is that guy? Oh, that dude, he's the guy that, you know, he does this or he does that, you know. That's just, you know, that's who he is. You know, he's the car salesman, you know, he's this, he's that. They want to keep you in that identity crisis. The human race has a huge case of amnesia and an identity crisis. We have to find ourselves.
Totally. And it's just real quick, the correspondence of the macro to the micro, and how, like, all these planetary transits at the macro and how things are playing out in the world stage. It's just interesting how, you know, folks are not even aware of that and not being able to navigate through that as well. And like, I guess like a question I would ask is like, how can we catch it and not have these things, you know, wielded against us, I guess.
So this is where you use your imagination in the fulcrum. You imagine the world you want to live in.
Hermetically sealed society.
See, you imagine it, right? You bring it forth. You see the world that you want to live in. You start with your own reality, right? If you can change your own reality, you can change the reality of this planet. See, that's how it works. So let's say, you know, Jupiter and Aries, the war drums may be beaten, but we're not going to capitulate to that energy. We're going to flip it, right? And the energy of Aries becomes what? The seed, right? So we begin to sow the seeds of Aries, right? In context to where we want to plant them. And those seeds are your mind's eye. It's your imagination. This is your first eye, your heart core intelligence. And you bridge it to your third eye, right? In context to this energy system here. And you see it. And then what do? You galder it. You speak it forth in the circle of the magician in context to what you want to see on this planet. And if we all started doing that, right, we would see major shifts happen on this planet.
Yeah. I think that was a great description of how we do dissolve the divide, how we stay out of these manufactured polarities and conflicts, right? Through knowing ourself and wielding our own personal selfhood, right?
Absolutely, because if you can't wield your own energy, someone or something else is.
Yes.
You're not in control of your own energy force.
Yeah.
You've got to learn how to wield your own energy first. And this is what the arts of gnosis teaches. This is why I teach astrology. It's why I give rune readings. It's why I give, you know, tarot readings. It's why I do a 9 world reading. It's why I do a Saturn to the gate reading. It's why I do counseling. You know, it's why I do transit readings, you know, to help people understand themselves so they can then become the cause point of their own life, you know. And
from a place of consciousness, so important. Awareness, consciousness.
Yeah, becoming whole. What does it mean? What does salvation actually mean? Salvation actually means that your body, your soul, and your spirit are in connection with each other. See? And your soul is prospering in the midst of this.
Yeah.
You know?
A divine alignment.
Yeah. So my website's hardcoreproductions.com. You can get a hold of me on email, hardcoreproductions9@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me on Facebook on Hardcore Productions. You can actually book a session on that page, or you can just hit me up on Messenger at Rodney Goodwin, and that's basically how you get a hold of me.
Yeah, I really encourage people to connect with Rodney and do your charts. I think there's tons to learn. Rodney, I really appreciate you being here with us on our Dissolving the Divide. I think we'll want to bring you back again. Be our
thank you.
Ultimate astrologer.
As you can see, I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah, it's exciting. I like how you draw together so many dimensions in this work. So.
Yeah, it's definitely multidimensional, man. So I thank you for having me. I so appreciate it, and just hit me up if you want to do another episode, and we could definitely set it up. I mean, I think that we all have our part, and finding that part, in our purpose in context to that, is very, very important. And I love teaching. I love doing this. It's my life's journey. It's my life's purpose, so.
Yeah.
Very
You light up.
man. Thank you.
Yeah. So. Appreciate it. Any final thoughts or words before we?
Yeah, I guess you already shared and declared so much wonderful stuff, and you have such a deep wealth of knowledge of everything, Rodney. Yeah, speaking to a friend earlier, it's like, I'm gonna get my mind blown on just things that I should have known years ago. But it's just wow, what you brought to the table is really phenomenal, Rodney. And thank you so much. I really hope people, actually do perk up their ears and interest towards actually acquiring some of your services, because I've done services and realized like, okay, why didn't I do this earlier, kind of thing. So and these things are also great. It is the holidays, maybe you missed out on I'm gonna say Christmas and all that, but gifting things like this for presents, especially like birthdays coming up or something like that, they're so great. And I know people are kind of hinging away from the whole materialistic stuff and Amazon or whatever. Like, this is perfect. So
I had a few of those come up. People gifted astrology readings. It was great. So
awesome.
Yeah,
it is a great gift, and you can learn so much about yourself, that you didn't know. It blows people's minds when you read their mail,
Yeah, I think it helps to bring focus too. Clarity around, okay, this is where my energy should, needs to be going, because a lot of times, like I know for me, I can be really, really scattered, but it helped bring pieces together and guide my energy. So it's good.
Yeah, and it's good to have people also that you're in network with, that when you need help,
Sure.
you definitely hit them up and work through stuff too. That's another aspect, that we sometimes, you're not alone, and sometimes you feel alone. You feel like, God, especially when you're going through major purges, and your body's shaking because you're just like, oh my God, am I going to even want to get out of bed today? And it's like, you get up and you feel alone and you feel like you're going through all this. And you got to remember, there are people who care. And I mean, and so having an inner circle of people that you can count on, that you can be held accountable with as well, I think is also very important with this path.
Yeah, I agree very much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to get to know you better, Rodney, and look forward to further interactions.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. I guess we
Thank you for having me on. I so appreciate it.
Yeah,
likewise. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and much love and respect. We will hopefully see you sooner than later. So
Adios, everybody. All right.
Astrology. 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 Hey, I'm a Libra rising, Libra surprising. Libra heart and soul, me about just surmising.
Yo, check, check your balance beamer with a feather and a rock. Now whether or not you find the answer is really not the plot. See, it's like love and hate. the same emotion, different weight. People love to hate, so I know you know just how this all relates. The positive and the negative, mini and the mega live. On my leg, arm headed by here goes one to go on. I'ma go on and on and on till the principles are laid out. The scales of justice weighed out till your memory starts to fade out. Your game of life is played out. Gotta balance out the power, don't we? Balance your emotions. Push and pull positions like the moon pulls on the ocean. Balance on one foot, that's equilibrium. Opposites attract and retract, that's a fact. I'm a Libra, y'all. 180 degrees, but not that hot. So whether or not you find the answer is really not the plot. Cause giving is receiving, seeing is believing. And the solar system rotates so harmonious and even. It's perfectly balanced. It's perfectly balanced. It's perfectly balanced.
Drawing the circle of the magician is how the vortex is created. Within it, you are able to withstand the influx of all evil evocations and invocations. With the cosmic authority to bind and banish anything that seeks to harm you, and have the spiritual discernment to know the difference.
Till my cosmic karma hangs in balance. Universal harmonic, symphonic soliloquies encompassing my 360 degrees of
all inhabitants of the earth. As it revolves, I've dissolved since birth. We all evolve back through the gateless gate to an eternal Polaris.
So it's deathless, fearless.
All I'm asking is for you to just have the tiniest bit of vision. You know, to step back for 1 minute and look at the big picture. To take a chance on something that might end up being the most profoundly impactful moment for humanity, for history.
Astrology. 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 Astrology.
All-seeing is the being who's guided by triple sight. Moonlight, starlight, eternal sunlight.
I am Capricorn, born 360 under Astro. Rejoice for the inner voice, I hear myself laughter. Y'all be gathered soon as Saturn take his access. Please do not glorify the name of John the Baptist. I wasn't the one who received them lashes. Work on your vibes, being ether like them gases. Walk through grasses, sit on asses, make herb ashes. It was nice while it lasted, but so long, masses. 95%, profit percent. Y'all didn't say this, but we all knew it was meant. Green my color, golden red, metal is lead, gem, moonstone, we soon go. The priesthood, Capricorn ambassador, Astro door.
I'm an Aries, style vary, voice carries. Deep beneath the planet, I vary. Ask Bailey. Astrology.